Welcome to the Better Agent Podcast. If you're a real estate agent that's looking to grow your business, then you're in the right place. Whether you want to go from 5 to 10 transactions a year, or 10 to 50 transactions per year, or more, well, then this show is for you. I'm Josh Lavik, your host for the Better Agent Podcast, and in each episode, we'll bring you the tools, tips, and tricks directly from myself and some of the best leaders within the real estate industry. We have one goal in mind, and that's to boost your production and elevate your real estate game. Let's dive in and start creating a better real estate experience together. Welcome back to the Better Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Lavik, and we are here talking about how to get better in your real estate business. That's our goal in this podcast, and the guests we bring on, we want to share this message of growth and growth in your real estate business, whether you're looking to go from 5 transactions to 10 per year, or 10 to 20, or 20 to 30, or 40 or 50, or however many more you want to try to do. If you're looking to grow your real estate business, you're in the right place, and we want to hopefully bring some nuggets and some insight to our listeners and our viewers today. So I have a great guest on our show today. We have Rabe Avery. He is joining us here, and I'm excited to hear some of the nuggets that he can share about his journey and his growth in his business. And you know, my background, I've been doing this kind of a long time, almost 20 years now. So it feels like a long time, but and it's been one of those businesses that, you know, I've continued to grow every year, just about. You know, sometimes we move a little bit forward and sometimes we go back a little bit, but you know, every year you learn something new and every year you try to grow a little bit more. So, you know, so with that, without further ado, I'll let Rabe kind of give a quick intro about himself and share more about some of his background, and then we'll dive into some questions.
Yeah.
So, Rabe,
all right. Thanks, Josh, for inviting me on the podcast. My name is Rabe Avery. I'm in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and I'm here to hopefully, you know, share a few lessons and some knowledge that might help some newer agents that are looking at either entering the real estate field, or that right now are, you know, in the beginning stages and they're struggling, or they just want, you know, a few more tips to try.
Yeah, for sure. So tips hopefully for maybe newer agents, because you've been in the business 3 years now, you said?
Yeah, end of May will be 3 years. Correct.
End of May will be 3 years. So, you know, getting started in the business right around COVID, probably kind of a hard time to get started, honestly. And, you know, getting started with a lot of things changing in the market, right? Interest rates going up, you know, dealing with the pandemic still. And like, you know, how did that go? I mean, your first year in the business, you did, I believe it was around 9 transactions. Is that right?
Yeah, around 9 transactions my first year, you know, and it started off better than I was expecting. So I joined a team. There's a few, Madison would have a few more than Stevens Point, but we have a few bigger teams in town. And I joined one of those. And really the benefit of joining the team was that under their structure, you got more leads. So they did lead generation, you know, that was worked into your split, but the volume of leads you got helped you to become better at running with buyers, sellers, and then, you know, doing the open houses, writing the contracts. The more you get through that, you know, because there's a learning curve to all of that they don't teach you in your 72-hour classes, right? So how to write contracts with contingencies and how to write competitive offers is stuff that either your team or, you know, your team leader, your broker, somebody's got to help you with, because you just don't have a lot of experience beforehand, unless you're maybe an investor or something that's been doing it for a while.
Totally. Well, if you're brand new in this industry, even, you know, that I know for sure that 0 to even 3 transactions in a year can be a huge hill to climb. And if you're starting from scratch and you have nothing, you know, that's really hard. You have to find new leads, find new opportunities, generate business. And, you know, that's why the national average number of sales per agent is like, I think it's 5 or 6, maybe 7, something like that. You know, even so fresh out of the gate, you're getting new leads, new opportunities. You're joining a team, you're joining a structure. And we've been building our team and our structure for several years. You know, I first started my team-based business back in 2010, and we provide certain leads and opportunities as well. But it's like, you know, it takes a lot of momentum to kind of just get off the ground. So jumping right into a structure that has some of those opportunities and some of those things refined already. I mean, you were able to go even in the next year, right? You jumped up to 12 transactions and then 17 transactions. And then like, boom, like you're growing every year. So that's what we're all about here. And we're all about growth, you know? I mean, I've been doing probably 30 to 50 transactions a year for several years, but like I didn't get there overnight. I didn't start there from day one. And I think the message that we just want to encourage, I'm hearing, is like new agents, there's a benefit to joining a team and a structure that already has some things in place that says, here's some opportunities, here's how you do things. And you might pay a little bit more in terms of your split or your fees or whatever, but you're going to get more opportunities. You're going to get more chances at bat to really figure out how to do this business at a high level. Would you agree to that statement?
Yeah, I'd say that it gives you a head start joining a team like that, especially when you have more people around you that are in the same environment, so you kind of get a kickstart when off the gate joining the team. But looking back, I would say there's probably another avenue that I didn't think of. You don't hear as much.
Yeah.
So there's starting off on the team, which I think is great. And then I think there's also some people that might benefit from looking at an experienced agent that doesn't necessarily have a team. Maybe they have one person they work with, but they've been in the industry a long time. So they might have more leads coming in than they want to work, right? They might want to have their weekends off, or they might want to have more family time, and they're looking for someone to come on and help them. And that was something I didn't really know when I joined the team. I was thinking, I have to join a team. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the only route you have to do, but what I would recommend is, maybe interviewing some people for coffee, especially so it's not like more of a interview style type thing, but asking, either a team member or team lead or some other agent you think you might correlate with out to coffee, just chat with them and see if you think you'll be a good fit, because I'm sure Josh Lavik's team is amazing, but then there might be another team that you might mesh with just a little bit more, right? So it's good to not just have one, just say like I did, I'm just going to join this team, which there was a reason I just joined that team. But long story short, how I got to there was actually I wanted to become an investor. I wanted to buy a duplex.
Yeah.
And I was a service technician at the time. So I went from servicing the Wisconsin lottery to servicing TDS internet. And I was tired of driving all over. So I actually sold my fishing boat. And I was like, all right, I'm going to use that down payment. I'm going to buy a duplex. And it was so competitive.
Wait, you sold your fishing boat to buy a duplex.
Sold the fishing boat to buy a duplex.
Hey, that's a huge deal, right?
That was a big deal. Yeah.
Because how many people out there are listening to this that are like, oh, I wish I could buy a duplex. I just can't afford it. And you said, you know what? Investing in my future, investing in my life is more important than having a fishing boat today.
And I'm a diehard fisherman. So
I believe that, but I think that's a testament to your tenacity that sometimes it takes, right? People say that they can't afford maybe to buy a new home or they can't afford to invest in real estate, but it's really about choices, and it's about the choices we make with those things. So, I'm sure, and you're a diehard fisherman, so it sounds like, it's important to you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that was worth pointing out. Holy cow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so I sold the fishing boat, and then actually there was one duplex that came on the market. There's not a lot of multifamily up by me, especially not nice side-by-sides, because at the time, it's my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, but she did not want to live in an upper-lower duplex. So I was like, all right, well, find a nice side-by-side. Well, I got beat out. On the offer, and it was like a couple months, maybe 2 months later or so, and I didn't see, there was nothing else coming on. And I was installing internet he would have been one of the bigger business guys in town at his house. And he's like, well, I'm best friends with this realtor, part of this team that I ended up joining. And he goes, why don't you just get your real estate license? I was like, well, I didn't think about that. I was thinking about getting into investing. And he's like, well, here's his number, call him. So I called him, and he's like, yeah, let's, come in for an interview. So came in for an interview, and I was like, all right, well, that's it. I signed up, got my license, and then I still had the money from the boat. So once I got my license, I actually just quit my job at TDS and jumped right into real estate in 2020.
Jumped right into real estate. You know what? I'll tell you what, your story resonates with me in many ways, right? Because I started out, I had a part-time job. I was waiting tables, bartending and stuff like that. And then but I struggled for the first year, a little over a year, and wasn't sure if I even wanted to do real estate. Do I really want to do this or not? Right. But having that, I had that mental shift of okay, if we're going to do this, boom, let's go all in. Let's dive deeper. And I think, that's probably a testament to why you were successful over the last 3 years, right? Why you continue to grow, because, going all in, making that commitment, making that leap. I mean, it's a leap of faith, right? Because this is as a realtor, you're an independent contractor, correct?
Oh yeah. Everything's on you. I mean,
Everything's on you. You only get paid when you close a deal, when you sell a home, right? So if it's all on you, you got to bet on yourself at some point. And you totally made that bet. You made that decision. So I just want to honor that for you.
Yeah. No, it does help if you can get a little help from other people, right? Whether that's people in your team or whether that's other agents in the office. Some of them will help you out along the way. And when I joined the team, I wasn't my team leader, but actually one of the other guys that was training me on the team, he was one of them, probably the more experienced agents. I'm pretty sure he took a vacation to like over the weekend, wherever, to go see a Packer game. And so he needed someone to fill in. So that was one of my first transactions I closed, was from him taking a little vacation.
Yeah.
So,
well, there you go. You know what? And that can happen. That's right. I always tell, it's funny. I always tell agents they want to do more business, they better go on vacation, right? Because that's when business happens, right? It's like you go on vacation and suddenly the deal has happened. Yeah. No, I think that's something to be said. The team-based approach is certainly something we've seen more in the last few years, and there's, has been more teams being built and some more out there, but that's not the only route. And I think you bring up a great point. Actually, that was part of my start in the business. I started out, my mom is a realtor, and so she had been in the business a few years, and I kind of teamed up with her. She was my mentor. Like, that was our team. She was kind of the one person giving me guidance and suggestions and stuff like that when I first started. And it wasn't this huge team, but it was just kind of her and I, and we just kind of figured things out and helped each other out. Like if one of us was going to the Packer game or going to out of town for the weekend, right? We would just kind of rely on each other in that way. So that's absolutely a good route to go. You don't have to join a huge team. You can just partner up potentially with another agent even, and finding, maybe if you're brand new, finding that more experienced mentor that has maybe more business than they can handle, maybe wants more time off, maybe wants more of, they don't need every single lead opportunity. They don't want to host open houses maybe, or whatever it might be. So, I think there's more than one way to look at that. And I think that's a great point that you bring up for sure.
right.
So what about, tell me, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and tell me about, some of the challenges, right? Because it's not always, rainbows and unicorns out there, right? So, what are some challenges you think that you've encountered over the last few years that you really, pushed hard to overcome, and what did you do? And maybe share a story, if anything that comes to mind, if that works.
Yeah, well, there's quite a few. So just to start off, my mentor on that team ended up leaving the team. And shortly after that, I decided to go on my own. And when I went on my own, the leads that they were supplying were gone. So actually, I changed brokerages, and lead generation was probably one, if not still one of the biggest challenges, but it had to change. And instead of running with all these leads that they were paying for, I'm really breaking out to my sphere of influence, which I was before too, but now it's like you have to keep in contact with them. The people that you like and trust are going to use you more often than a stranger, right? So whether that's phone calls, emails, wishing birthdays or note cards, or anything like that, and social media, that's really where I got a lot of my deals from last year, were from either referrals or from my sphere of influence. And then a mixture of, as a newer agent, you could sign up for these pay at close leads. So there's still leads, you still got to work them, you have to respond quickly to them. But for a newer agent that doesn't maybe have a lot of capital to pay up front, it is something that you can get some experience from. Challenges, I would say I underestimated how much you have to over communicate and over follow up. Both of those are extremely important. The people that you're working with don't always know as much as you, and you don't think about that. So you have to, make sure you're explaining everything as clearly as you can. And the following up, if you don't follow up enough, sometimes they'll go with somebody else. And
Totally.
If you are following up too much, they'll tell you. Some people will be like, well, you don't have to touch base this often. Let's just touch base in a couple of weeks or next month, or month after, or whatever. So just be cognizant of that, but do your follow up and over communicate. That'll help you relieve a lot of mistakes along the way too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm hearing this, and it's recognizing many things, similarities to my own business, right? I've very much, majority of our business has been from my sphere of influence and past clients as well, right? And but you do need to continue to stay in touch with those people and, right, remind them, hey, I'm still in real estate. I'm in the business, right? We can't just be hiding out, being a secret agent, like, oh, I got licensed, but I'm not going to tell anybody. Like, people will want to use you, as your agent if they know and think about you, but sometimes they don't forget unless you kind of reach out. You got to stay in touch.
Yeah, and it comes down to yourself, being accountable for yourself, because if they came into some money, some taxes or whatever, and they're clicking on a house on Realtor or Zillow, they don't know that that's taken them to an agent. So you have to be in their mind, oh, we got this money, let's reach out to Josh,
Yeah, for sure, right? People you got to stay kind of top of mind, right? Not everybody's ready to move either right away, right? I think that's the other thing that sometimes, that's something I've learned, right, is staying in touch with some of my sphere of influence or past clients. Like they may not be in the market today, but they probably do know somebody that might be in the market. And so sometimes just those referral opportunities or those recommendation opportunities can come your direction if you're still staying in touch with those people. And so that's a huge thing for sure. So yeah, I love how, I do think we underestimate how much, follow-up is needed, how much that communication is, really valued, right? And because I know sometimes it's easy to, well, actually, I've noticed this too. If you have an environment maybe where you're getting a bunch of leads, opportunities, if you have almost too many opportunities, you don't always follow up with them as frequently as maybe you could or should. So sometimes, we don't have a lead generation problem. Sometimes the problem is just the lead conversion and just following up enough times to stay in touch with and communicate with our people that have already come across us, right? You met somebody at an open house. They called about a property. They inquired. They clicked a website and said, hey, I'm interested in this property. That's a potential opportunity for business. And
I was just going to say too, in the beginning, it's hard to know which leads to, you need to spend some more time on. So actually I made a different file folder set for my cold, warm, and hot, so people that had to buy now, people that wanted to buy, and people that, dreamed of buying pretty much. So, and then I moved them around stack to stack based on where they went. So some of them you didn't have to follow up that much as often. And some of them were like, they want to buy a house now. So you better be following up with them quite a bit.
Yeah, so it sounds like, I love this. You've got a system, a database. Is this what I'm hearing? It's like a way to filter your people and segment them?
No, I wish I had a database to do it for me, like a good CRM. Actually, this was just file folders on a rack of like my top leads or whatever that I was following up with. So if I knew these 5 people are the most serious, they were in my hot folder. And that each one of them, so I could see them. There'd probably be a good way to do that online somehow, but I
got a marker board next to me. Sometimes I write notes of who I need to touch base with right here on this marker board. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't need to be some techno gadget whiz thing, right? It needs to be just front and center. What's top of mind? What are you staying in front of? And are you staying in touch with those people?
Yeah, it helped me starting out. I mean, it still helps me knowing because otherwise, if you forget the one person you're supposed to reach out to them this weekend, that's not a very good thing. You could lose a deal from that.
Totally. Yeah, they're going somewhere else. You bet. Yeah. So, no, I think I love it. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. It can be. Certainly, there's lots of CRMs out there. There's lots of database options out there. But I think, it sounds like maybe it's a little more simplified. But simple is in some ways is best, right? Like, let's not overcomplicate this, right? If they're not moving right away, let's segment these people from the hot and the warm and then put them in the cold. And then I don't need to reach out as frequently, but I still need to reach out. You still need to touch base. You still need a system of some kind, whether it's a folder in a rack or a whiteboard or a complicated, whatever, CRM database. Like there's lots of ways to do it. But I think the message that I'm hearing is it's important to do it. And it's important to take that, client information, you take a bunch of notes, you write stuff down, you got to do something with it and put it into your system, into your world so that you can follow up with them and stay in touch in a consistent manner. Because if you don't, then they're absolutely going to the next house, the next agent, the next whatever, and you're probably going to lose out on that business if you don't stay in touch.
Yeah, it's a fast-paced society that we are living with. And to add on to that, when you're starting out, you don't have as many clients, customers you're working with. I know I was mentioning deals, but say transactions. So yes, you try to get them on a home search so that they see the stuff coming on. But if these people are top of mind and you see the house coming on that day when you're checking your MLS, then I still send it to them in a text too, because they might get it in an email. Well, what if they didn't check their emails or whatever? I send them a text. I tell them a text, hey, check this one just came out. I think it's what you're looking for, and that's really what spurs them to reply back and say, oh, we like it, we want to set up a showing, or no, that one's not quite right for us or whatever. But then you can ask, why don't you like it? And you could maybe filter out a little bit more so you're not sending them something they don't want in the future.
Well, so you're not just relying on the one email to go out, right? You're not saying, oh, that email went out, they should have got it, they'll call me when they're ready, right? You're not just relying on that.
No, I'm not. If I think that's a good house for them from everything that they gave me notes on, I will send that back out to them. I'll text. If it's really good property, I get on the phone, I send it to them, and then I call them and say, hey, just sent you a house. I think it's perfect for you. This is what you told me you're looking for. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you want to set up a showing.
You know what? That's what a great agent does right there. You know what? A great agent is going to recognize an opportunity. They're not just going to set them up on a search and forget about them. They're going to set them up on a search, but they're also going to look at that search. They're going to look at the properties. They're going to call them. They're going to text them. They're going to email them. They're going to stay on top of everything for that client. And that's what a great agent does. And so, we do it. I do it. I've done it myself too. I've done the same thing. I learned from somebody training we did years ago, right? Don't always just rely on email, right? Call, email, text, whatever. Like, you need to stay in touch with the people, over communicate in a way. And if you do, then they're going to want to use you. They're going to want to recommend you to your friends. You're going to capture that business and that opportunity. So I think that's a great message to take home for sure.
And we both know Madison is not that much different than Stevens Point. If you don't look at some of these houses the first day or two, you don't have a chance at getting your buyers in there and getting an offer. So if they don't check their emails that day and it's the next day and they can't get into the next day, well, what could have they gotten in the same day or the day after if you would have got a hold of them right away?
Yeah, for sure. Certainly, in Madison, some of the best homes and the best properties and the best neighborhoods, they do go right away. Sometimes they'll go in the matter of sometimes same day, sometimes a couple days, sometimes whatever. So it just depends. And if you're not on top of that, then yeah, they're oftentimes, can go to they're selling it to somebody else. So if we've been in a low inventory market, at least in the Madison area for several years, actually. So, kind of fairly low inventory, definitely through COVID, really low inventory. And so, this has led to a lot of demand and a lot of competition sometimes for the best homes in the best areas. So that's been our market for sure. I do see some shifts a little bit. I'm starting to see prices level out a little bit. I'm starting to see some homes, maybe are sitting on the market a little longer. And, if it's way overpriced, obviously those homes aren't selling anyway. They didn't sell in any market, right? If it's way overpriced. So, but if it's priced fairly well in a good neighborhood, a good area, then they definitely are getting offers. And we're seeing that, at least I'm seeing that in the Madison area for sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing up here. Inventory does seem a little bit lower than it has the last couple of years, but I'm optimistic that might change this summer, turn around.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. Well, we've been chatting about a lot of different things. I feel like we've hit on a lot of touch points that are helpful. What, I guess, anything else that's coming up for you? Anything that comes to mind that you think a message you want to share with some of our listeners and our viewers today?
Yeah, I do have a couple of things. Just starting out, to someone that wants to get their license, the biggest hurdle is actually just signing up, taking your classes and taking the exam and then getting your license. That's the hardest part. After that, there's a learning curve, but once you have your license, it's not nearly as scary after that. Two books that were really helpful. There's a lot of knowledge, even for experienced agents, are the Sold and the Skill books by David Green. He used to be a Bigger Pockets real estate podcaster.
Okay.
Since he's retired, he does investing stuff, I believe. But
Sold and what was the other one?
Skill.
The Skill. Huh.
So Sold and Skill by David Green. He's a real estate agent out in California, has his own team. But there's some great stuff in there. If you read those two, that's going to give you a big leg up versus anyone else starting out.
Well, very cool. I'm a big reader. I got a lot on my bookshelf here, but I don't have those two books. So I'll have to definitely check those out. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I think reading books, learning from others, mentors, others that are more experienced in the business, I think those are all absolutely great things to do as well. I know, when I was brand new, that was one of the things that when I made that mental shift and commitment to go all in, like we talked about earlier, I read a ton of books. I read a ton I bought all kinds of them, and I read a bunch of them, and I went to a bunch of seminars, and I went to classes, and I, reached out to other people that were more experienced all the time. And I think that's what it takes too, is just this, if you want to be successful in this business, you need to go all in, and you need to do whatever it takes to become successful and to learn how to be a great agent. And then if you do that, you're going to absolutely succeed, because this business, it rewards effort. It rewards those who are willing to kind of go that extra mile, right? Make that extra call, make that extra email, text, and whatever to organize your database, build your business, and stay in touch with your sphere of influence, people that you meet and come across, people at open houses. There's lots of different ways to build your business. And the one thing that I've noticed from every successful agent, team leader, everything, is it takes commitment. And if you're willing to commit full on, you will absolutely grow your business. So nice. Very cool. All right. Well, I'll look forward to checking out those 2 books and diving deeper into those, and hopefully we can share some more nuggets. Yeah, no, there's some great books out there. I know. Yeah, there's lots of great books out there. So we'll definitely have to check those out. So, well, Rabe, I really appreciate you coming on our show today and sharing more about your story and more about, growing your business and becoming a better agent and helping others out there become a better agent as well. So again, I'm Josh Lavik, and I'm your host on the Better Agent podcast here today, and hope you enjoyed our show. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more about it, then tune into our next episode, and we'll bring on similar guests and have similar conversations about how to have a better business today and tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
All right. Thanks, Rabe. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Better Agent Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for more tips, Q&A sessions, and sneak peeks into our 21-day challenge. To get full access of our show notes and more details on the 21-day challenge, go to abetterrealestateexperience.com. Keep striving for greatness, and I'll see you on the next episode.